Hi guys, Mark Carey here. I want to share something with you that I'm very excited about. You know, I'm an old dog, just like some of you out there who are trying to learn about computers and technology and all the things that we're hoping to be able to share with you here on this website. But along the way, there are some things that just excite me beyond compare. And one of the things that really excited me, was the fact that I was able to build my own computer from scratch. That's right. I didn't go to a store. I didn't buy an HP or a Sony or a name brand computer. I didn't go somewhere and hire somebody to build one for me. I went to the store, bought all the parts, and made my own computer from scratch. And I'm recording all of this on it right now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you all the parts. I'm going to show you how I did it, tell you what I've put together in the way of my computer for the one that I've just now named Big Blue. And I hope you enjoy this. Maybe it's a little bit beyond where you are right now, but, you know, there are a lot of neat tricks for us old dogs to learn. So come on, let me show you about Big Blue, the new computer that I built all by myself right here on my desk. The first component that I needed to select was the case, the enclosure for the computer, what it was going to go in. And I wanted something that was going to be portable. In addition to working here at my desk, I frequently go out and video and shoot and stream live a lot of different events for people. And I needed a computer that when I hauled it around with me was more powerful than my laptop, but just as portable. So you can see by the handles on the top, this is typically called a gamer's case. You can see on the front and on one side, there are a lot of fans. Those fans actually have some really cool blue LED lights in them. So the case looks really cool when it's up and running, but it is so airy. Look at that. You can see through it everywhere. It's so airy. It's not going to overheat. And with a couple of the special items on the front, I've got 3 USB ports. I've got a place for my microphone and my headset, which of course is how I control all the music and all the other audio that I do. All of that on the front, and the sides actually swing open so I can get inside of the case. It's a really cool case. It looks really neat. It's going to be really portable. It's lightweight, and that's the platform I started with. Here's another view of it, all expanded and all the parts pulled out. You can see the fans that are on the inside and see how the sides of the case come off. You know, what's really cool is that when you start to build this thing, you take it all apart and everything just comes out. So, you know, you've got full access to the inside and the ability to mount all of the components. It is just a dream to work on. Of course, I knew that at the very basic guts of my new computer, I wanted to have a fast processor. I need to handle a lot of video, and I'm going to be doing a lot of video editing in Adobe Premiere and After Effects, but also when I'm out live broadcasting with a multiple camera shoot, I need a lot of processor speed. I went with the new Intel Core i7 2600K processor. Should be plenty for me for the time being, and I'm going to show you a little bit later how I got that installed. For those of you who've never done it before, it's just a part, it's just a component. The big part, I mean the one that you really have to kind of think about because everything has to be compatible with it. Don't forget, if you're buying an i7 processor, you've got to find a motherboard that it will work on. And so I went with the Asus P8P67 Deluxe motherboard. And what an easy thing. You look at this, you look at all these parts, you look at all the stuff that's on this, and you might say to yourself, my goodness, how would I ever navigate my way around that? Guess what? It comes with written instructions, and they're not that hard to follow. All you got to do is look at the board, look at the things you're plugging in, plug them into the right place, and the next thing you know, you're up and running. Just so you know, when you've got the case all taken apart, this is the area where the motherboard goes. It actually mounts to this plate, which slides out the back very easily. You lay it on a table. There are these little studs, these little standoff screws that are already mounted to the plate. You line them up with the holes on the motherboard. You put in the screws they tell you about, And before you know it, your motherboard is mounted and back inside your machine. The whole thing is open. It's not like you're working in a dark environment. You set it up on a desk. I'm telling you, this was a dream come true. Never built a computer, but to be able to have this removable motherboard panel that slides out where you can mount the motherboard and then slide it back in, man, what a treat. You're going to want to get a little bit of advice when it comes time to picking a power supply, because you're going to have to find a power supply that's going to have what you need, okay? It's not just, a place to plug in the computer. It's got to have the right ports and everything else. I went with the Seasonic. It was a brand new Seasonic X series 660, and should be plenty of power, lots of plug-ins. And you look at these little places right here and you go, what is all that? Well, guess what? That's where all the cables that plug in your components go, and they're labeled. There are labels on here. You can't really see them in this picture. There are labels on here to tell you exactly what goes where. It is so easy. I mean, really, it's just a matter of, if you can plug in a lamp and a TV set and a vacuum cleaner, you can plug in all the components of a computer. Because I'm going to be doing video editing in Premiere Pro, and because I'm going to be doing some live video, I wanted to make sure that I had a graphics card that would handle everything so I can see it, send it out to my monitor. So I went with the PNY Quadro graphics card, Quadro 600, and it slides right in, right onto the motherboard. I'll show you where all that stuff goes. It's actually so easy. You just look at the motherboard, you look at the plug-in, you look at the instructions, and you go, oh, well, that just snaps right in there. It was done in a matter of minutes. Like I said, because I'm going to be capturing a lot of video off of digital video devices in HD, and because I'm going to be doing some live streaming, I actually needed an extra firewire card to plug in all of my cameras. In addition to USB cameras, I have some DV cameras, digital video cameras, and HD cameras. So I needed a separate firewire card. So I went with the Firewire PCI card by Manhattan. I haven't fired it up, haven't used it yet, but it plugged right in, snapped right in, went right where it's supposed to be, and everything was configured. Like I said, this literally didn't take me half an evening to get done. A big part of what you want to do with a computer is you need to understand a little bit about matching some things up. Because I was going with the Intel i7 2600K processor on the Asus motherboard, I knew that I was going to be doing what's called a 64-bit system. That means that I had a system capable of handling a lot of RAM. I went with the Corsair Vengeance RAM, and I went with 16 gig of RAM. So I got plenty of power, plenty of brain power, plenty of reserve power for my processor and motherboard to keep me functioning probably without any glitches, I'm hoping. Although there is a plug-in in the back of the motherboard for an Ethernet cable so I can hardwire into the internet, nevertheless, there are a lot of times when I don't want to have to run a wire, or maybe I've got a good router that I can get in contact with. I put in a Linksys, Cisco Linksys wireless PCI adapter that is functioning very, very well. In fact, everything I'm doing right now is on that router, on that PCI card. So I'm actually, reaching the internet from my new desktop computer wirelessly like I would with a laptop. It's working out just fine. The modern technology is Blu-ray if you really want full high definition video. And since I'm shooting a lot of video in HD, I thought, I may want to one of these days turn it into a full high def video disc. And instead of trying to get it all stored onto one single layer DVD, where I really can't get the quality that I'm shooting and that I'm editing, I needed a Blueray burner. When these things first came out, they were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Now, like 50, 60 bucks for a Blueray burner to go into your computer. It's ridiculous. Prices have come down. A regular DVD burner, which I put one in also so I didn't have to burn up the Blu-ray loading programs and things of that sort. So I've got two drives. I've got a regular DVD writer and a Blu-ray burner. The regular DVD writer was 19 bucks. Of course, these days, you want to go wireless as much as possible. So rather than having wires running all over the place and cluttering up my desktop, I went with a wireless mouse and a wireless keyboard. And I went with the M505 mouse by Logitech. The reason I went with that mouse is because it does have a really good laser in the bottom. So when I'm doing digital editing, digital photograph editing and things like that, I can move it around and make some finer movements as I'm occasionally selecting individual pixels in photographs to modify them and to remove them, to take out artifacts in pictures, clean up dust on old photographs and things. You know, the finer the movement, the better. This wireless mouse with a really good laser by Logitech seemed to be the perfect solution. And by the way, you might note this little connector here, this little wireless connector that plugs into a USB port on the computer. It's suitable for multiple devices, so you can plug one in and you can actually pair it up with your keyboard and your mouse. There are a lot of wireless keyboards out there. I went with one that was a little bit more expensive only because, I mean, it was $40 more than a regular wireless keyboard, but here's why. It's lighted. That means that if I'm in a video shoot someplace and I'm out on location and I'm sitting someplace where the lights aren't on me and I need to use my keyboard, it's not going to be dark. I'm not going to have a flashlight in my teeth to be able to see what I'm typing. So a lighted keyboard allows me the ability to function in a darker environment. And there are a lot of times I come down and use the computer in the middle of the night, and rather than turn on all the lights in the room, I want to look down and be able to see what I'm doing. So a lighted keyboard works. This one has a motion detector. As your hand moves over the keyboard, it detects that you're in the vicinity. A proximity indicator or device is what they call it. Anyway, it let the keyboard knows your hand is in the near proximity, and it turns on the lights. And if you are away from it for a few seconds, it shuts the lights off, so it saves on your batteries. But a battery-operated, keyless, backlit wireless backlit keyboard is what I chose, and so far I'm real happy with it. Now I want to show you where the RAM goes. I showed you the RAM earlier. The RAM goes in these slots. And there are little notches in here that line up with the RAM, so you really can't put it in backwards or upside down. It's pretty obvious. And there are little tabs here that when the RAM goes in and it's fully seated, they snap shut. It's almost idiot-proof. All of the components that we talked about, the hard drives, the Blueray burner, the DVD burner, they plug in here. And there are places on here to plug them in. A plug for each of them comes with the motherboard. Plenty of plugs, plenty of ways to get them plugged in. There are 2 plugs for each. One goes in here for the data connection, and one goes into your power supply for the power connection. Very easy to find. All of that usually comes either with the power supply or the motherboard. The other components that we talked about, the video graphics card, the wireless connection to the internet, the firewire card, all of those things I installed separately by putting them into these PCI slots. Not hard to do. You can see there's little notches here, and here. Those line up with the cards. They tell you how to put the card in. The card only goes in one way. It is very, very simply done. One of the cards required its own power supply. That was no problem. The instructions with the card told me that it needed its own power supply. Down here on the board, there are a number of other little connections, and in these areas, other little connections. The instructions tell you what gets plugged in there. It's not hard to find. Up here is the connection for your processor. It gets plugged in here for its power. And one thing I do want to tell you, those of you who are using this motherboard and using this processor, don't forget, on the back of the power supply, there are a number of places to plug in power. One of them has to be plugged in here. Although the main power supply is here, this is where your main power supply comes in, there is another one that has to go here to power up the processor. Well, I certainly hope you enjoyed the little bit of video on how I built my own computer for the very first time. And I hope you'll stay with us at Tech Talk for Old Dogs as we learn new tricks every day. Thanks for being with us. Hope to see you again soon. In the meantime, take care of yourselves and your family, and God bless.